Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS European Challenger. We are here in the finals, or I should say the semifinals right now. My name is Fear Dragon, and I am joined by In Control on the desk. How are you feeling about the semifinals?
Robust.
Robust. That's an interesting way to describe it. Elaborate.
I feel a multitude of feelings. I think to confine it down to a basic statement of like, I feel good or I'm excited, puts us in a place that diminishes and minimizes the full scope of reality that is StarCraft. I think we can feel pride, joy, excitement, energy, anger, anguish, and in some cases defeat even. But for me to just say robust, I think it encapsulates all of that.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Of course, for those who are wondering, we are going to be hopping into that next match. That is going to be uThermal versus PtitDrogo. Winner of this is going to go on to face off versus Cyril as the sacrificial lamb, as Nathaniel so elegantly put it.
Yeah.
But this is still going to be a pretty cool one. uThermal coming off the victory versus Showtime in the kind of same matchup, but he used up a majority of kind of his planned builds and everything that he was planning to do versus Protoss in that series versus Showtime. I was talking with him, and he kind of even was saying, yeah, like he specially designed that bunker rush that he did and everything. But versus PtitDrogo, I think he is just going to maybe be winging it a little bit more.
And that's kind of what uThermal does really well. I feel like he is one of those players where gone is the analysis of like, he likes to do this thing, and that's what they kind of do. uThermal's a little bit more of a free baller. He plays it a little bit more off the cuff, and I think that's part of his strength, is that he is able to improvise and catch his opponents off guard. So it'll be a different look for PtitDrogo as well, who's coming off that win against a laser, where I feel like he's very familiar with how a laser plays. Now he's going to be against uThermal, who these guys clash on the ladder. They clash in tournaments because they're both really great players. But it's harder to guess what uThermal's going to do.
Yeah, PtitDrogo versus Terran, it seems like also has a 74% win rate versus uThermal, who has a 60% win rate versus Protoss. So
to be fair, though, so 74% for a Protoss player to beat Terrans equates, if you kind of factor in the difficulty level of that matchup for Protoss players, to about a 43%. However, 60% for a European Terran to be beating European Protosses, that's about an 89% win success if you factor in the difficulty of doing that. That's incredible.
yeah, I mean, the math checks out.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense when you talk about that.
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is going to go. And also worth noting, just because we have some notes being told by our producer, that yes, uThermal did used to play Protoss, and actually, he didn't just start playing StarCraft 2 with Protoss. Yeah, he's been dabbling. I think every single time he gets really upset with the matchup, he just switches to Protoss for like a few weeks or something on the ladder. Occasionally he mixes it up in a tournament or two and does pretty well.
It's kind of disrespectful, though, right? Like, he switches to it when he's angry, calms down, goes back to Terran.
Yeah. I mean,
what is that all about?
Well, you know, it's funny because he always says that his win rate is higher whenever he does play Protoss, so then he switches back to Terran and then feels like he loses more. Yeah. So it's like,
you could say it. It's stupid, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. The caster version of that, of what I just said.
I mean, I still got love in my heart from like the race switching days of Scarlet and stuff. So I can dig it.
That was amazing. But I don't see that happening here.
No.
Against PtitDrogo, to go PvP against him, he's one of the better ones. I mean, DNS, to be fair, the guy that he did beat with his Protoss. And even beat, by the way, took games off of. He ended up losing that series, I thought, right? DNS 1-3.
Yeah, I think you're actually right. I think he did end up losing the series, but he definitely won 1 or 2 games in it.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
We shouldn't say it because someone's going to get really mad. This will be great, though. I'm excited for this. Showtime recently defeated by Mr. uThermal here. You guys had a really good time with that. It was really scrappy, right?
Really weird series where it ranged from bunker rushes to just uThermal going for the full-on mech in PvT and also failing with the mech in one game and just getting hard crushed in that first game. So I feel like PtitDrogo's had an opportunity to learn and take some lessons from it. But the funny thing is, you were talking about this, uThermal is really good for that preparation. And in this kind of series, he can mix back up the bio play. He doesn't have to go for that sort of same mech style.
Okay. Well, it should be a doozy of one, guys. The last semifinal before we get to that grand final. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this coverage of the European WCS Challenger Finals. We're heading into WCS Austin in not too long. It's going to be great.
All right, we're going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Acid Plant on top of the red Protoss player. It is PtitDrogo. And up in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have our blue Terran player from Team Liquid. It's uThermal.
All right. What will Mr. Thermy here show us today? It's going to give us some different looks, I'm guessing, against PtitDrogo. PtitDrogo, a little bit more of one of those players, and what I really liked about his series, we talked a lot about this, but he opens up fairly formulaically, if that's a word. That's a tough one to get through for me, in each of the matchups for the most part, but he breaks it up into like slight different variations, a little bit different tempo. Is that a third Nexus, or am I all-inning you? That kind of stuff, which I really, really like. So when you face him as a profile, you're looking at a player where you're like, here's the small-ish range of what he is going to do, but inside that range, he changes things up. And, you know, at short glance for kind of more average players like myself, that's not that big of a deal. But at the higher end where these guys are cutting those corners, are making those hard choices, that kind of a player is very difficult to play against.
Yeah, it's so difficult to get a good read on exactly what PtitDrogo is going to be throwing at you, and the way you need to react to each one of those different kind of builds ends up being pretty different. You need to have the units out at a different time, or have them in the right position at the right time, making sure that you're either being defensive or offensive. All of these things really get mixed up, and if you don't have a good read on it, you could just kind of fall over and die.
Pretty good example is the decision-making that went into that Serral versus Hero Marine. You know, it's a tough matchup to begin with, but when one player is taking a risk against what you've shown, and then it's at that time that you kind of cut another corner for yourself and skip even the Reaper, well, all of a sudden that can spell certain doom. So got to be careful for that. This Reaper's going to check around, though, make sure. You might be like, what's he looking for? He's looking for a couple of an early probe or something like that, or a proxy even. It's a little bit early for all of the above, but that kind of stuff can also be very dangerous. So it's worth your time to spend a couple of seconds just to make sure it's not there.
Oh, Reaper slips past that Adept at the absolute perfect moment, just because the Adept was expecting the Reaper not to maybe be looking for proxies, so it arrives a bit later and kills off a probe and gets out of there alive. That's a really, really nice bit of damage.
Nice little chunk of damage. Occupies a lot of PtitDrogo's attention, is the kind of nice advantage there as well. That Adept would like to be across the map. It would like to be shading up the ramp and seeing, what are you doing? Because certainly if he sees the reactor on the factory, he knows that there's some kind of Hellion run-by perhaps coming in here. Now, we did see that kind of maneuver already employed in his earlier TVP for uThermal, so maybe PtitDrogo adds the gateways on the low ground anyways, but we could see a change up here, Robbie.
All right, with a blink coming out over here for Drogo, we also have that proxy starport for
Thank
uThermal.
you. I was gonna say, I hand it off to you, and you're like,
I know,
blink, and I'm like, no, Robbie.
That's not the change up at all. Yeah, but it's very important to note that PtitDrogo has seen 0 things out on the map. Because like you said, his Adept never got to scout out on the other side of the map. He has not seen the main, he has not seen the natural, and he definitely isn't going to know anything about a proxy starport right now.
No, and it's 4 Hellions, by the way. This is devastatingly powerful. They get in, and they are guaranteed to do damage. A really savvy Protoss player can split up the mineral line and mitigate it, but with just the 2 Stalkers and Mothership cores no longer exist, that's what you do. You're gonna miss mining time. You're gonna lose probes. It's just a question of how much.
He's trying to bait the units like the Adept over into the outside of the map. Oh, the god, the Hellions just come roasting everything in the main mineral line.
Yeah, and that's not how you handle it, by the way. I understand. I mean, he's in a bad spot. There's not really a super great answer, but we're looking at, it's gonna be like 14 or 15.
Yeah.
Exactly 14.
No, 14.
And that is, so like a really good mine drop, by the way, gets, let's say 6 or 7, maybe 8 probes, a really good one. This got more. Now before you go, but Jeff, Hellions cost more! They do, but it's minerals.
Yeah.
And you don't care. Either way, even if you spin the gas on the Widow Mines, like that 8 probes is a lot of damage, 14 is astronomical.
Okay, kind of an interesting spot. There's going to be one siege tank that's going to come out on the high ground, and there is a bunker also coming up. But Drogo moves out, and I'm not sure that the Reaper caught it. The Reaper does move in and see that there's no units over here, though.
Yep.
So that should be a pretty big reveal to uThermal. He needs to be on the defensive now.
He just sees the saturation of the natural and says, the only way I lose this game is if he attacks and kills me. So this third is a little bit, like he started building it earlier, obviously, but right now I think he wishes he could take it back. He's not in danger, but he's so far ahead that literally the only way he loses is if these DTs get in that Warp Prism, which, by the way, is that seen?
Oh, no, he doesn't see the Dark Shrine yet. Oh.
Well, he'll trade out the Dark, not seeing that for the damage he just did. But yeah, that's the only way he dies. Is like 4 DTs somehow. Isn't it just 3 gateways anyways?
Yeah, there's only 3 warp gates.
Oh, there's the fight in the natural.
He's poking forward. He's moving forward. The Blinkstalkers again. Drop him on top of the siege tank. There's just not enough here. There's just not anything close to enough.
He drops the Stalkers on top of the tanks, but kind of miscontrols that. PtitDrogo did tweet after his series against the laser and said that he played pretty sloppily and was hoping to improve upon that here. So far, not so good. He's just out. Tapping out. He's done.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate tap out where it's like 10, 15, 20 seconds after the fight, and you're like, this is just, no, I can't bring this back anymore. But that does mean that uThermal nets one on the board off of really, really clever kind of build. Yeah. And also, I feel like it really does come down a lot to the denial of the scouting information. The Adept never really feeling like it's been able to leave. The Reaper just being alive played a huge impact in that game.
It did, and your point is exactly true. The other nice thing about this, and I talk a lot about this when I do analysis on these best of 5s in particular, I really enjoy that. It exists in best of 3 as well, but in a best of 5 to start with a build like this, for the rest of the series, PtitDrogo is going to have to be saying, is there about to be a medevac in my base with 4 Hellions? Because there's not really a great answer for that. He already had a Stalker in there. You can't put all your Stalkers in the main with that idea, because then they just run into your natural, or like Cyclones show up or some other attack. So it makes him start to question things, and the rest of the series is going to play out differently than it would have if uThermal would have opened up with just a normal 2 base into 3 base, some bio, some drops, some normal stuff. If he would have done that, I think a lot of the butterflies for PtitDrogo would evacuate, and he'd be okay to play a solid series.
Yeah, that's a really good point. When you know that your opponent is, and like this has even been publicly tweeted and stuff, that he wasn't feeling great about how the last series got played out and stuff, then going for something that really, really just makes your opponent feel really bad about how the game got played out, that's a really good way to just kind of get in their head. And
it's a cheap win. So one of the things you were saying too, or starting to kind of say is, what does PtitDrogo get from that game? It's not like he says to himself, "I'm never going to face that again." It worked so well, and it's such a kind of, it's not like an all-in. You can kind of pivot off of that and do many different things. That it's so beneficial for uThermal to start that way, because he's got a Swiss Army knife for all intents and purposes. But on the flip side, PtitDrogo's like, I saw nothing. I know nothing. The rest of the series can play out very differently. And anyways, it's just a beautiful move. I love it from uThermal. And he is dicing and slicing up these Protosses right now.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if PtitDrogo, because of course PtitDrogo was watching that earlier series versus Showtime and thinking, okay, well, these are the things that he's doing. Because PtitDrogo was already sitting in the semifinals. He's just like, this is going to be, whoever wins this is my next opponent. So I just wonder if what he's thinking, like, not just about that first game, but even all the random weird things that uThermal was doing to Showtime, he's got to have those things also going through his mind. There's just so much diversity that I feel like uThermal's already showcased today.
And that is the struggle of playing against Mr. uThermal here. He seems to be hitting it on all cylinders. It is like the gambler's game, too, because there is a chance some of these builds hit that thing. Like if it was a Phoenix opening, for instance, which is really rare, obviously, but it's not like he didn't know that was going on. All of a sudden, those Phoenix pick up the Hellions, or they grab the medevac, even worse, and you're in actually a really bad spot. But it's neither here nor there. I'm excited for this next one. We're going to be heading to Backwater for game number 2. Robbie, is there anything in particular you like for this map in TVP?
I mean, I like this specifically because uThermal is going to be that meching player more often than not, or at least it seems like he's been enjoying going for that mech style, and that I feel like is going to be, this is a great map for it, because you get that in-base third base that's very easy to take. Your fourth base is also very easy to take. There's just so much that goes well with that, but then as we've seen today, sometimes players just say, oh, well, this is a really good mech for mech. Let me go ahead and just cheese you on it.
Yeah.
That's what makes it
Either
scary.
one. Both these guys capable of that as well. And there's those handsome devils in this final semifinal, getting to the grand finals. We already have Cyril there, as predicted by everyone that's watching StarCraft these days. Is it going to be uThermal or PtitDrogo to stand up to that monster of a man? We'll have to wait and see.
All right. We are going to be starting in the bottom right-hand corner of Backwater. Top this blue Terran player in that liquid blue. Give it up for Thermal. uThermal. And up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have our red Protoss player, the Frenchman, who's looking for a comeback. Give it up for PtitDrogo.
We'll see if he can bounce back. A lot of congratulatory and excited tweets from these young men as they did qualify for WCS Austin. It's a big deal. Being able to go to that tournament and skip the open bracket and compete against your fellow pro gamers as they bid to be champions and win themselves, perhaps, if you win the whole thing, a spot in the WCS Grand Finals at the end of the year.
Yeah, can join the likes of Cyril. If Cyril wins, then someone else luckily gets that through the points, as dictated by last year's predicament, with Neeb winning 3 of them in a row. Or not in a row, but pretty close.
3 out of the 4.
3 out of the 4.
Not too shabby. And we'll see Neeb later as well. Tomorrow we have a whole day of NA as well to cover. Hopefully you guys will join us for that as well.
NA gets the fun task of trying to see who can beat Neeb, similar to how I think Europe is trying to find someone who can beat Star. Ooh, that's cute.
It's less though. I'm a big Neeb fan. I'm not even sitting here hating on Neeb, not at all. But the difference between Neeb and that group, I feel like is closer than Cyril in this group.
Absolutely. The way that Cyril has sort of been destroying and dismantling the European scene is, it's almost comical to watch. It's ridiculous to see how it happens.
Yeah.
Whereas Neeb, I feel like he still drops games. He still drops occasional series to players that are in the NA scene.
Neeb recently losing a single PvP game on the ladder to none other than Mr. Rotterdam.
But I mean, is that really something to be ashamed of?
No, you're absolutely right. Rotterdam had turned 31 on that day and was celebrating the best way he knows how, and that is to smash nerds in StarCraft.
Yeah, 6 minutes in. All right, well, this time uThermal is able to get that Reaper out across the map once again, but PtitDrogo did go for at least a probe scout. I don't know if it's going to really reveal that much more information for him. We're going to see if he can deal with his Reaper and get that Adept across the map, but man, it's already doing a really nice job microing around this Nexus.
uThermal's famous for his Reapers, by the way.
He made a name off of it alongside Kellizer with the 3x Reaper era, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's that, but even just he's one of those guys that his scouting Reaper, as we're seeing here, is just like, Reapers are a nuisance, but then there's those guys that make them into something special, and uThermal's one of them. Behind this, it is going to be that Swiss Army opening. You can see Widow Mines coming out and the Starport, presumably to drop said Widow Mines. This map, though, does have that quote-unquote kind of pocket third base, but it's a full base, which does change the dynamic of this map.
Okay, Adept does make its way across the map and scouts out the Marines, so he's going to see, okay. Looks like he can probably infer at this point that it's probably Reactor Marines. I don't think that he'll have necessarily a great read on whether it's going to be Widow Mines or if there's going to be Hellions or whatever, but...
I said Widow Mine drop, but it's actually just defensive Stargate, or Starport, excuse me, and Widow Mine play. Okay,
the Oracle, what angle is it going to come in from? It's going all the way around, looking for the proxies that uThermal has been throwing out this year. And kind of funny that it's going to backfire on uThermal. Ooh, Reaper getting a kill? And escaping. Oh my god, no. It cannot get this kill, right? Oh, that was close.
Needs a third pistol. But great information. I mean, why is the probe back there? It's obviously to take a third Nexus, right? So uThermal's a smart guy. He's going to infer that for sure. And this Oracle is, as you said, just being kind of one of those perusing Oracles, not looking to do any damage at all. Basically, the second you do some scouting with an Oracle, you are foregoing any kind of economic damage to Oracles, though. Hang on. What?
Wow, and the Reaper is still alive. It's going to get killed off over here now, as the Adept does finally get that final
Stargate, though.
Yeah, get some really good scouting information, and
2 Oracles.
He didn't really move into uThermal's bases with the Oracles either. He did poke over by the third to confirm whether or not it was there, but he didn't poke over to the natural domain and clearly didn't set off that Widow Mine, so...
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if the Oracles are actually, like, pretty offensive. Is the idea behind them. They really chop up Marines. Cyclones aren't great against them at all.
Oh, this is a really awkward meeting in the middle of the map. The Cyclones make this really difficult for the Stalkers.
But watch the Oracles show up. It's going to kill everything here. The 2 Oracles.
Okay, Oracles are just going to back up. It seems like...
Oh, okay.
I mean, PtitDrogo has a good mindset here. It's... You don't have to engage it in the middle of the map. Why not just engage it defensively if they're coming across the map?
I would jump on this right now. It's literally 4 Marines in a single. I mean, it's now,
Now it's
literally 4 Marines. He's still backing up. But to be fair, uThermal still pushing
there's a
forward.
drop in the main base. So that's part of the reason why he started back up now, is the Stalker's getting warped in. Phoenix is over here, but it gets taken care of. And the medevac gets taken out. Marine's going to get taken care of, but most of these stasis traps are starting to expire.
And now the Oracles can shove forward. There is no Widow Mine over here. They do back up as they're keyed in on. And pretty solid play so far from PtitDrogo. Nicely handled here, if not overly cautious.
It's going to be pushing this army back, and uThermal's third base is going to be a lot later than his opponent's, who has had his finished up for a while. I'm surprised he hasn't even gotten his gas geyser started, but he can easily do that at any given moment now that he has a bit of breathing space.
Well, PtitDrogo's taking this to the distance, at least for right now. He's gonna jump on this.
Sieging up is going to make a world of difference. The Stalkers trying to close the distance. They don't have blink or anything, but they are able to snipe off that Siege Tank. SCV is being pulled off the line, and uThermal is in a world of trouble right now.
Yeah, he just kind of surgically had the important units picked off. Even the, I mean, the Viking lost its purpose, I guess, after the Oracles were killed. But getting that tank, getting one of the Cyclones means there's just these unupgraded Marines out here, and they're not backed up by medevacs either. So they're really unimpressive.
I guess he's out of units now, though, because he's not really reinforcing. He has that third base, so he doesn't need to. But for now, uThermal has been able to defend, and he's getting up some of the Liberators that he can be aggressive with.
Okay, the Liberator gets past harmlessly, but like, Stalkers pick off a Marine, back off, and the Liberator just flies right through that spot.
Wow.
Crazy.
He's going to see this with his own, like a watchtower, I think. He's going to see the Liberator.
Yeah. But did he see it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's pulling his Stalkers all the way back. He's not warping in anything about this third, so I feel like he didn't actually notice it.
He saw it, but he didn't see it. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. He's like, he was your father, I'm your daddy. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing.
Yeah, basically the same thing. All right.
Pop culture reference, Fear Dragon. If you're looking for ways to take your casting to the next level, you got to incorporate cool stuff like that for the young kids.
I don't even remember that movie. Like, I watched it, but it just like went over my head. Feels like a really long time ago.
Man, you were alive for that one though, right?
Yeah.
Like last year, I think, or something, or 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not Nathanius Young.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Pretty quick fourth base here from PtitDrogo. He's just maintaining that pace of being a slightly ahead of uThermal in expansions. You got to be careful with that as a Protoss, though. If you overexpand and start to try and saturate that and lean into it a little bit hard, that can open up the window for the aggression from Terran. But that being said, uThermal's a little bit pacified. Now, we do have some, yeah, I was just going to say, okay, they're Dune buggies just flying up the field.
They're going to try and find something here. The Hellion, countering it. We're probably able to find a couple of workers.
Yeah, it's not bad. The damage is not super amazing, but scouting the space and getting, 5 probes is fine. That's okay. Is he going mech, though? He is, isn't he?
Yeah, this gets so weird, because I don't know if he's identified that it's going to be the Colossus follow-up, double Robo Colossus coming out over here for Drogo. And if he's going for this mech style, I feel like you need a pretty particular composition to help deal with that. Do you get up Vikings or do you get up Liberators?
This is really interesting. I'm going to slightly kind of implied disagree with you. Colossus aren't terrible against mech at all, but they're also not super amazing against mech. Like, you don't go, oh, he's going mech, I need to get Colossus out. Because if the guy's massing tanks and he sees Colossus, they're in a really nice spot that Bio doesn't offer, where, to answer your question, it can be either Vikings or Liberators. It's actually fine both ways. Whereas with Bio, you kind of have to go Vikings. You can do Liberators, but it makes your army a little bit less strong.
Yeah, I definitely see the logic there. Well, the Colossus is going to get revealed here now. If uThermal didn't know about it before, he definitely knows about it now as he ends up losing these Cyclones in the middle of the map.
It's okay. That's mostly fine.
Yeah. Keeping the siege tanks alive is going to be the important thing in this situation, I guess.
I want to see, and we are seeing, there's even another command center behind this. The really scary mech players almost overexpand. So they're like, you can see he's got a supply advantage. He has a scary number of tanks. You need sensor towers, you need defensive like missile turrets and stuff like that so you don't get harassed. But if you also add 2 or 3 more command centers, drop some planetaries or orbitals, whatever you kind of favor there, and the Protoss is supposed to both trade and hurt your army, but also stop you from expanding, it becomes really difficult.
Well, we have a transition to carriers coming out now from Drogo.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty nice way of punishing a bunch of units that don't shoot air.
Yep. And it is going to be Liberators coming out for our Terran player here, mostly. At least for right now, there's 2 being paired up. But only just the 1 starport, to your point, for your Dragon. So like if you were aware of the carrier transition or worried about it, it would not be 1 starport, or you'd start adding Thors or something. Probably all the above.
All right. There's those.
He's not doing it, though.
Yeah, there are those 3 Stargates, and there's a bit of a timer here. PtitDrogo is going to be the one that gets aggressive first, though. So this might actually be an opportunity for uThermal if he's able to trade out pretty efficiently and then go for a big counterattack, do the damage before the carriers get out in large numbers. Maybe he can make something happen. The War Prism dropping in on top of that Planetary Fortress that's not quite morphed at the same time the engagement's getting teased at.
It's going to try to make its way inside the main, though. The missile turrets do repel him, and here's where the Liberators are really great at stopping from doing too much damage. Now, with the death of that War Prism, check in the box for Liquid Thermi to say, okay, it's time to attack. Unfortunately, he is going to come into 3 carriers, and as Fear Dragon said, he's really not kitted out for it. We have Cyclones being added. They are defensive at best. That is not a scary thing. Liberators at this count and with these upgrades are okay, but strictly just okay. He's got to do some damage and then also resupply this army with some anti-air.
Yeah, and right now he's still just making 4 Cyclones at a time. Stalker's blinking forward, taking some big siege tank shots. So, I mean, nice little win there for uThermal, but the clock is ticking right now, Jeff. I don't think that he has time, and this is not something he can afford to have happen.
Well, we're going to have a big engagement right now. He's going to try to jump on top of the tanks, and PtitDrogo is going to go ahead and trade out the majority of his ground army. He's not getting on top of those tanks, and the Liberators defending. He steps into the Liberation Zone and is immediately pushed back.
Oh, 1 carrier goes down, so I mean, that is a little bit of buying time as he gets
supply
more
advantage
Vikings.
for our Terran as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting something good done here, and there's only 2 carriers. There's no more carriers on the way at this moment. Just Archons being made. Kind of desperation mode here for PtitDrogo. Has uThermal been able to clench a good enough position to trade out this army well?
It's looking like it. He's got the muscly army to do it. A huge chunk of PtitDrogo's army is going to go for a big flank over there, but that leaves not much on the left side at all. uThermal kind of sensing that is going to snuff it out, but here we go. PtitDrogo's going to try to jump on top of this. He does get around the Liberators, which is putting some of the damage outside the zone of being dealt here. The Stalker's blinking underneath, but the tanks flatten a huge chunk of them, and the supply advantage remains in Liquid Thermal's position here. The carrier's not really getting attacked or left to deal a lot of damage.
Yeah, the Cyclones are trying to lock onto them. They're starting to get some really big damage done with those initial lock-on damage. He is
4 Cyclones. They just dropped it pretty quick.
They are really strong at first, and then they just kind of peter out into a tickle beam. But at first, they are really strong.
And if allowed to do that, right? Like if anything gets on top of the Cyclones and kind of kills them or pushes them back, it becomes less effective. But a very nice attack here from Liquid Thermal. Now, the really scary prospect here is PtitDrogo's shown his hand. He's like, well, I'm going to try to be building up carriers. And of course, carriers are amazing. They're the end game unit. But with 0 support and with him just starting from ground up at this point in time, and uThermal having the knowledge of, okay, you now have to prepare for carriers, it's making it harder for me to believe that PtitDrogo's got what it takes.
Yeah, this is a weird spot. I feel like this is where the mind game kind of happens, where PtitDrogo either has to say, I'm going to keep reinforcing on carriers, or I'm just going to swap out, not make any more carriers. You're going to have this massive Viking fleet that's going to be more or less not that efficient in these fights, but he's going to continue investing in it.
Being said, yeah, I mean, if this army from uThermal, I mean, if that's the, okay, well, I was going to say if this can die, then that's one thing, but it's just not that much Protoss out there.
Okay. Oh boy, he gets on top of the carrier. Doesn't quite kill it, but takes the shields off of it and does some good damage. Same thing to the Oracle, and now the Cyclones are coming forward.
Well, he's losing a lot of Vikings.
Yeah, the Hellbats need to get to the front of this fight so they can start soaking up some of the damage. Or actually, you could just move around and probably stamp off that other new base.
Supplies starting to equalize a little bit here for PtitDrogo. Army supply, very similar.
Oh, I really like that the Ravens are finally getting added in. The Ravens with the anti-armor missile can really help out these Cyclones with the DPS, especially versus those carriers.
And now, kind of oddly enough, there's 1 Tempest being added and 2 carriers. I wonder if that's a panic button hit.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it if it was intentional, but okay, here we go. Hellbat's taking out a lot of these Zelts, but the Zelts are in a little bit too high in numbers, and uThermal getting pushed really far back.
But there's that anti-armor missile enough to turn the tide. The ground force just dissipates immediately, and it's just the carriers by themselves. There's the lock-on. One carrier goes down immediately. The second one is going to hang on for a second. He recalls back. Just in time. A bit of a trade-off there. For a second, it looked like PtitDrogo could actually do it, but it just kind of ran out of steam, huh?
It's getting really weird, too, because uThermal has such a sick economy. You were talking about that kind of massive expansion style.
Yeah.
It's not quite reflected in the income totally, but once the mules drop down after the engagements, you start to see, oh, uThermal has a lot more bases, and PtitDrogo, if he loses even one of these mining bases, it really hurts.
And as we just got a shot there, too, his 12 o'clock base is not really mining. The nice thing is you can start to send... Well, no, it's actually full saturation.
He just saturated it, though. I'm going to save you on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking like, that doesn't look like 22 pros. But anyways, he is going to transform over there, so that is the advantage of that. And we'll just now start to kind of hike up that income. But that's the last of the kind of defensible bases. His next and basically only option, by the way, with how small this map is top right. Think about that.
That's a long distance to cover with something like a carrier fleet.
And it's the two bases that you have to have, right? So it gets far away from your main base. It kind of stretches things out. And look at this. uThermal's just going to grab that territory for himself right now.
Yeah, this is not even something that PtitDrogo can try and defend.
Oh, geez. You got to be careful. He's just kind of moving over there.
Okay, he's moving forward with the carriers. He has to be so careful. The anti-armor missiles, and there's also the disable on the carriers, taking out all those interceptors. There's barely anything left.
And as you said, Fear Dragon, if this base goes down, so does PtitDrogo. He's going to fight. Coming in here on top of this, the Nexus immediately melts. It looks like Liquid Thermal will lose the majority, if not all, of the army here, but he's also just cut off the head of the economy for PtitDrogo. Immediately remakes the Nexus, but as you can see with that kind of income graph there at the bottom, it's just not a lot. There's no bank. He's down 40 supply. It'd be one thing if he had like 5,000 minerals, but he just simply doesn't.
Well, Jeff, you were talking about how PtitDrogo can eventually take that top right-hand base. No, not anymore. This is now uThermal territory, as so is the bottom left with the planetary fortresses, missile turrets being thrown up. Drogo has one advantage, and that is the fact that he still has a large number of carriers, a Tempest, a couple of Storms available, and he can still make a miracle engagement happen.
Yeah. And that Nexus gets canceled immediately as well. He can... I mean, you say he can make a miracle happen, but I feel like that's it's possible. It's the way to describe it. It's not that he's. It's almost like not even his decision. This Nexus also getting sniped.
He's out of position.
And you talked about the aggression of uThermal. I love it. This little counterattack in this late game can get shut down so often, but in this situation, it's getting so much work done.
I think that PtitDrogo's economy is just not good. Oh my god, he just depowered 5 warp gates. His economy is just so bad at this point, he can't even warp in defensively enough to deal with 5 Cyclones. That's the kind of economic state PtitDrogo's in now.
Yeah, he's got an Archon giving chase with a miscue. It's interesting. The Cyclones getting a lot of work done in both the TVZ and TVP matchup in this late game role. Almost specifically as aids to the anti-armor missile, right? Like by themselves, they're okay. But with that missile, they become horrifically fearsome. They're got a lot of range, a lot of DACA coming out of them, and if you just take off that armor, they get it done.
Yeah, and you can see all the kind of cracks and chinks in the armor right now. Is okay, well, the uThermal is going to come in with the Hellions, and you know, it's not the worst thing in the world to lose these workers. It's not like he was really mining all that efficiently anyways.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the right side Nexus is going down.
Oh boy. Well, Hellbat's going to take a while to clean up a Nexus, but he will be able to get quite a bit of damage done on it regardless.
Yep. They begin the work.
And at the same time, Hellion run by in the natural is going to snipe off any probes that are even left mining here for what few there are.
Okay, well now, I mean, at first it was like, yeah, he killed some probes, not that big of a deal, but then you killed 25 probes. And he's remaking 2 bases and has 2 that can still mine. It becomes a big deal. This is...
Jeff, this has turned from a situation where Drogo was looking like, man, he still has this carrier fleet, maybe he can do something, to, okay, uThermal is now killing Drogo with just Hellions.
Yep.
And he has an army behind it.
Maxing out and now making a bank behind that. He's focusing down his composition. Like, that's the thing about Hellions, too. They're completely disposable, right? Like, you just go out there and trade it for something. It's horrifying.
Man, this is a really, really tough spot. I actually feel, I will say, maybe more so for the next game or something, but armor upgrades versus these kind of Cyclone-based compositions can be really, really beneficial. But okay, there's another carrier down. I mean, he is killing off a lot of Cyclones here.
I mean, so what? It was like 7 Cyclones he's trading for a carrier and 5 Stalkers. And he's the guy with money, by the way.
Oh boy,
And
there goes down the Nexus.
This is kind of that situation on the ladder where you're beating someone so bad that it's not that PtitDrogo's playing poorly, it's that every choice he makes at such a disadvantage just looks really bad.
There are no right decisions. It's let me make a gamble and hope that my opponent messes up when I make this gamble so that I can start coming back in this.
Well, this is a masterclass from Liquid Thermi here. We saw a great Serral take down a couple of players.
Oh Lord,
in another effort.
Well, I mean, a lot of feedbacks, but to what end? The Ravens still get off all their anti-armor missiles. Only carriers left over, and for how long? GG. uThermal taking a 2-0 lead in this best of 5.
Impressive play. I feel like you had that game won for about 10 minutes there, so there is a little bit of a PtitDrogo holding on, but you know, he was down 0-1, and as you said, he's got the carrier, so there's like that kind of belief of like, if I can lock down a base somehow and add 5 more carries to this, it can get to that composition where maybe there's not much Terran can do, but even that, uThermal did such a good job of trading his army out for those like 15 Ravens, and then if you do have mass carrier, even that's not good enough. You need Templar below it. You need income coming in to replace. And then he did such a good job of just kind of like tennis volleying the army of Protoss. Like, I'm over here canceling Nexuses. I'm running over here and killing 30 probes. It was tough.
And it buys so much space so that we saw that PtitDrogo barely had any opportunities to actually get aggressive himself. He tried to get some bits of aggression, but by the point that PtitDrogo was even out on the map, there were, I think, like 6 or 7 planetary fortresses with missile turrets and everything there. There's just no chance you can really do anything with a small group of units.
And it's kind of cool about Liquid Thermal's style of mech as well, is even if you do get to that planetary fortress, his army's not slow. He's mostly Hellions and he's mostly Cyclones. That'll get over there pretty quick. If it's a bunch of tanks and Thors, okay, now it's you that can kind of stop the Terran from getting over there in time. You recall back or a mothership type of stuff, but it was a combination of never allowing him to get over there because he was constantly being the aggressor, and then also his army style was just so fast that I just don't think PtitDrogo felt like he ever could do that anyways.
It's a really cool kind of new take on, I guess, the new age like Terran versus Protoss mech, which again, I haven't really seen from many other players besides uThermal in more recent times, at least in that kind of style. And I love that it's so mobile, it's able to try and take all these situations. I do want to kind of bring it back to game 1 of uThermal versus Showtime and say how that was the game where Showtime kind of bopped uThermal. It was uThermal comes or tries to get up this defensive posture, gets up a third base, and Showtime just kind of comes forward with a lot of gateway units with charge and blink and just sort of never lets him build up to a big enough number to do anything. I wonder if that's going to be something that we might see in the cards for PtitDrogo, because I feel like that's a really good answer to this kind of style.
Yeah, but it's, you know, to be fair, it's just more complex than just build a bunch of gateway units and get on top of it. It's almost situational. I feel like what's really fun about uThermal's style here is it's very momentum-based. Once a couple of things start to go his way, it spirals pretty quickly out of his opponent's control. So composition-wise, going carrier there was not the mistake. A couple of the fights were a little bit aggressive. Even the Colossus, do we look at that and say, no, Colossus are terrible here, that's why he lost? No, not really. I don't think that is the case either. It's that he didn't really establish bases behind this, and then he did take those fights where he lost his army and got into that rebuild stage, but because uThermal is spending so much money on quick hitter units that he doesn't care about trading out, it just never allowed PtitDrogo to ever get back on his foot. So to your point, if he's not going for the big endgame units and is instead doing gateway stuff, maybe then, yeah, possibly.
Okay, well, Blackpink is going to be our next map as uThermal leads up 2-0. Is now 1 game away from moving on to the big old grand finals of WCS European Challenger to potentially face off versus Serral. But we'll see if his opponent is going to have something to say about that. We're hopping in, introducing the player in the top right-hand corner of the map. It's going to be our blue Terran player, still sitting up 2-0. It is Team Liquid's uThermal. And his opponent's spine down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Our red Protoss player still really hoping he can make a comeback in this series. It is PtitDrogo.
And we'll see. This is that time in the broadcast where when you broadcast a PtitDrogo series, you're contractually obligated to point out that he is an emotional player. When he falls behind 0-2, the likelihood of him climbing back out from there is not as high. There are some players that kind of thrive on that pressure. They get more dangerous, they get more powerful. PtitDrogo, in fairness, historically has not been one of those guys. Now, does that mean he can't do it? Does that mean he hasn't evolved? He hasn't, matured? No, I'm not saying that. Maybe this is the year where that kind of stigma about him goes away. But for right now, I'm looking at Liquid Thermian saying, does this guy stack up to Serral?
Oh man, uThermal is looking so good today. And I think I kind of expected a little bit of it for his first match versus Showtime, Liquid Thermal. You were talking about this. He does well, I think, when he has some time for that preparation.
Yeah.
But he didn't really specifically prepare for PtitDrogo. He prepared for this matchup in general, but he used his prepared builds versus Showtime. And now he's still doing really well. If he can go on to versus Serral, I feel like he's just in generally good form right now. So I'm really looking forward to that as well, potentially.
Yeah. Could be a great series. A little bit of probe harass here from PtitDrogo. And he himself going to drop down the Nexus as well. So this is the kind of agreed upon dance between Terrans and Protosses when they meet. The fork in the road will be right after the Cybernetics Core finishes. Is it going to be a Twilight Council? Is it going to be a Stargate? That's where the Protoss kind of decides if things change up a little bit.
Okay, first Adept is on its way out. The Reaper just popped out. And we got that good old reactor plopping down right next to the factory. I'm interested to see if uThermal is going to segment that off over to the factory and maybe even just go for kind of the older or the more normal style of Hellion harassment where you just run them straight into the main or the natural just because there's no wall this game at the natural expansion.
I think we're going to see the double medevac Widowmine drop, which Terrans have been doing a lot of.
Okay, I could dig that.
It's a bold prediction, I will say that. Nope, so I was wrong, it's Hellions. Hellions are pretty great all the time.
Well, you miss every shot you don't take.
That's right. I'm taking those shots. That's what Wayne Gretzky would want me to do. Right?
Who is Wayne Gretzky?
You're joking.
So the Reaper is going to try moving forward for the natural.
Can't tell with Fear Dragon, guys. Nate grew up with Pocahontas as the first movie. So what's the first movie you saw?
First movie I remember?
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure I saw some like random kids movie or something, but the first movie I remember was It. That was horrifying.
Are you being serious?
That's the first movie I remember seeing.
I think I know this. You have an older sister, right?
Yeah.
Did your parents make you watch It, or did you just watch?
My sister wanted to watch It.
Okay, I should have gone with my instincts. It was your sister. Wow.
Yeah, that was
She sounds awesome.
Oh yeah. She was always the bully.
I had my siblings watch Puppet Master, which is a terrible horror movie, but if you're like 6 years old and your dolls are what's killing you,
wow,
it's pretty good.
Wow, you're actually you're the same kind of person.
Yeah, I don't think that's too hard for people to believe.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, well, the Hellions are not able to get too much damage done over here for uThermal. He's still making more Hellions, and he's doing a nice little loop around. The Stalker's going to find that. I guess Hellion confirms that there's no third base, but that there shouldn't be a third base this early.
And I love the Raven. It doesn't even necessarily have to be the first Raven of like 3. Just that one Raven does so much. We haven't seen uThermal kind of announce which direction he's going to take this. We haven't seen like a second factory. The lack of add-on on the barracks tells me we're going to see mech again, probably.
Yeah, I think even just seeing the multiple Cyclones popping out and also the Raven really just signals to me as well. And it seems likely we're going to be seeing a transition into that mech play again. Third base coming down for Drogo as he moves out across the map and has that Warp Prism paired up with 3 Warp Gates. So we'll see how much damage he can get done over here. This could be really effective.
Yeah, he's going to still has that Observer, by the way, so he's able to spot up there using this Warp Prism to pull back the wounded units.
Well, as soon as the units are pulled away, the Raven spots that Observer, so yeah, he just locks on and picks that off. That's going to be a bit of nice defensive play there for uThermal, because now if the Warp Prism isn't joining forces with these Gateway units, they don't have high ground vision anymore. It becomes a lot harder for them to directly engage. Oh, the Adept
Shade forward.
Nice way to compensate for that. And, oh, the most beautiful anti-armor missile that I think he could have ever asked for.
Yep, it just basically says your aggression is over, fall back. And uThermal can like give chase the entire way, by the way. That's how powerful this ability is.
Oh god, yeah, it's deceptive because there are a lot of stalkers, but these are anti-armored missile stalkers, so
yeah.
uThermal wins this, guys.
And it's PtitDrogo that didn't know that until now as well, by the way. Like,
oh my god, and he gets the Warp Prism, and he gets all the stalkers.
So you can leave now. PtitDrogo won't, because he's got nowhere to go. But when a Protoss player loses their army and doesn't do critical damage, it's as good as over for you. This is a very bad spot. And I'm really not doing that early GG cast or quit thing. I'm telling you, as a guy who has a lot of experience with losing his Protoss army and then losing immediately after, it's really tough. So what do you do to come back? And here's the funny thing. The Raven slams the door on a Dark Shrine as well.
I was going to say, this is like, that's my gut reaction when behind Dark Shrine, but no, it's pretty difficult unless you make like 25 DTs, but that's my ladder games, not his.
Which you can do, and it can work. Like, DTs still work in the situation. It's just that you're at least like, okay, I go DT, the Raven shows up, he sees it, he kills it. Like, it's all just so bad. It's a really rough spot.
Okay, Stalker scouts out and sees, okay, my impending doom is coming. Let's see what I have prepared. He does have some immortals.
He is. It's just 6 Cyclones, but he's so confident.
Man, one good Guardian Shield and a well micro sentry that stays alive, the immortals, I actually feel like there's a really good chance of Drogo to push this back pretty handily.
Yeah, but what about that anti-armor missile? If that hits everything there, it just melts.
Yeah, that does get a little bit difficult, especially since the anti-armor missile activates those immortal hardened shields immediately, no matter how far back they are.
Here you go.
Oh, the Raven doesn't have enough energy for an anti-armor missile yet. That's actually really important.
Just hit 50?
He just used some energy to disable the immortal.
I mean, that's not good.
I can kind of understand a little bit of it if you feel like you have 2 of those available and there's exactly 2 immortals. Maybe it ends up being worth it, but yeah.
The army grew to a point, too, where I don't think it just ends with the anti-armor missile. So maybe that was just, he's like, well, I'm not fighting this, so I'm going to escape. Anti-armor doesn't do anything for me there.
Yeah.
That could be the thought process, but PtitDrogo has equalized. Similar in workers, similar in army. His composition, by the way, handles mech fairly well. He is going towards what Fear Dragon was calling for, which is just kind of more gateway units backed by some immortals, perhaps. A lot of gateways being added.
Yeah, the kind of catch there is that this is the kind of composition that does well in the earlier stages versus what uThermal is going for. And as the game goes on, it may have trouble kind of scaling up and getting that same level of cost efficiency.
So what I hear you saying is it's got to do something right now, which I think is fine, because PtitDrogo, like I said, took such a huge hit on the nose earlier that coming back even to this point is something of a point of pride. Delivering a killing blow would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to keep that 3rd base alive during all the aggression. He was able to continue that worker production as well. Cyclone comes forward. It scouts out the 4th base. A scouting Cyclone. All right, I guess you see something new every day.
Yeah, a little bit odd.
The rocks have been knocked down, though, and Drogo not going to push in from that angle. uThermal is repositioning his army, so this might work out really, really well for Drogo. Unfortunately, the other location for a 4th base has not been taken yet, so it really is only 1 or 2 opportunities for where you can move in.
He's winning time, though. Dealing with mech outside of one of your bases is a completely different animal from kind of keeping the Terran on their little corner. You threaten the, well, I mean, that means he's going for it, I think. I would hate it if he did. I love the idea of just having this kind of guillotine unit hanging above the head of the Terran and saying, if you move out, I will jump all over you. But I don't know. PtitDrogo is posturing massively here.
He's moving in right before +2. Okay, right as +2 weapons finishes. He's still waiting for blank, but he doesn't have that many stalkers right now. Anti-armor missiles blanketing a lot of these immortals. This is it was going to kind of okay for Drogo, but these siege tanks, maybe?
He's on top of the tanks. He's cracked the shell. That's it. GG.
Wow.
I understand your hesitance because it was looking a little bit odd there, but such a key moment was just getting on top. And he's done this twice now, where he loads up that Warp Prism and drops on the tank line. It's a really nice move. And to your point, it doesn't work the later in the game you go, because if you're trying to do that drop and there's missile turrets, there's maybe a Thor or 2, Vikings, or even just the Cyclones we've been seeing from uThermal, there goes your Warp Prism, there goes the attack. But in this case, he got in at just the right time. Really well done.
And really well executed there, because without really solid execution, I don't think that you can actually pull something like that off. Moving into a sieged up siege tank line for a Terran player with all the Cyclones, the anti-armor missiles still land. But like you said, the Warp Prism and everything else really making things work.
Not bad. And I'll tell you what, Blizzard Production, fix that score right there. You're counting out the Frenchman. I knew the whole time he had a chance. I knew it. He lost that army, and I was like, you know what? He's an emotional player. Watch him turn this around. That's exactly what I said.
Pretty sure that's what you said. I'm pretty sure you said he was guaranteed to come back in that game.
Yeah, so. I believed it the whole time.
Yeah. I saw that Twitch clip on Reddit.
I would never say he could leave the game or anything like that. That would be bad casting.
No, you were saying he could leave the game because he hadn't won by that point, and we're getting ready to move on to Neon Violet Square.
Or just like a gentlemanly move to do. You know, like, you know what? I'm going to save you the embarrassment of me coming back to win right now, and you can just leave. But
you know, they actually have some. It's like in Japanese like high school baseball and stuff. They have something called like a mercy, or it's like a mercy kill or a mercy something, where basically you just say if you are beating your opponent by 10 points or more in baseball, you just call the game because you're just making the other team feel bad now.
I don't know why you said Japan. That's also in America.
Oh, is that in America too?
Yeah, it's not in high school.
I wish I had that in my Little League, but...
you didn't have it in Little League? You sometimes lost?
I'm pretty sure I lost by a lot sometimes.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not the most athletic guy, but guys, we're going to be hopping to a short little break before we get our next game started. You guys are watching WCS EU Challenger Finals.
This poor town has seen its share of trials. Now we face a new force, sinuous and vile.
The way ahead is haunted, our hackles stand on end.
We'll make our stand right here, our choice is crystal clear. We are the beasts, the monsters fear.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to give you guys a bit of an update. We're dealing with some technical difficulties right now, as we're still hoping to hop into that next game, but we are going to be going to a shorter little break. Jeff, any thoughts from the analysis desk?
Breaks are good. It's important that you guys get stretches. Make sure you have some fiber. If this is the time to use the restroom, then now you want to do it. And remember that breaks in life are good.
Yeah.
In fact, all of Spain takes siestas. Did you know that?
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty fantastic. Well, guys, we'll be back in just a little bit. Please don't go anywhere as we find the exciting conclusion of this semifinals match.
This poor town has seen its share of trials. Now we face a new force, sinuous and vile.
The way ahead is haunted, our hackles stand on end.
We'll make our stand right here. Our choice is crystal clear. We are the beasts, the monster sphere.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your patience and apologies for the delays. We had some technical difficulties. Nathanius' box was broke, but we got it fixed.
Wow.
So he's ready for the next match after this. But my name is Fear Dragon. I'm joined by eControl, still on the desk. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm ready to get this rolling. We did take a little bit of a break there, and I want some more StarCraft 2 action.
Yeah. I think we're all excited for that next match, as it's going to be on Neon Violet Square. Currently the series, I think, is sitting right now 2-1, where uThermal has been able to take the first 2 games, and Drogo finally showing a little bit of fight in him in that last game, showcasing that he can make some really, really solid engagements happen.
Yeah, I thought that you were a good kind of predictor of what needed to happen here. We kind of saw a return to just focusing on those gateway units, being aggressive, not allowing them to mass up, not allowing him to dislodge him from his repetition and what he wanted to do game plan-wise, and that aggression was able to secure for him a victory. It'll be interesting to see if, because what we haven't seen from Liquid Thermi just yet is bio. We haven't seen him go that direction yet. It's not like he doesn't believe it can work. It's not like he doesn't do it. Does he need to mix things up crazily, or can he go back to mech? I think he can still do mech, but it's nice seeing PtitDrogo show that he's got some new ideas.
Yeah, this is like the perfect time for it too, right? You're up 2-1, so you have a game to work with, an extra game to try something different out. It's not like you're worried about showcasing, oh, this is what my bio playstyle looks like right now, because he's going to be facing off versus against another Protoss player. No, this is the last Protoss player he's going to have to face off against, period. Then he would potentially move just on to Cero in the finals. So this is a really great opportunity, I think, for something like that. Even if it's just a mix-up kind of with something that opens up a little cheeky and cheesy.
Could be. Definitely in the wheelhouse. What do you think about the map in terms of what you just said? Is it play in there? Or?
You know, Neon Violet Square, the funny thing is I say all of that, but the thing that I like about Neon Violet Square is you have that tucked away third base, you have a very easy to take fourth base, and especially with that tucked in third base that has 4 mineral patches but 2 gas geysers, you still have all the normal gas income you would want for that kind of mech play, and you're just lacking some of the minerals, which is not as big of a deal because the minerals are, you can get those from the mules, you can get those from taking a fourth base. That's also, so I actually really like this map for mech. So I kind of have some conflicting opinions on that one.
Well, that's StarCraft, right? If it was a clear and present path that you push through, it would be not the game that we know and love.
Indeed. Well, the game is finally getting started. Thank you guys so much for your patience once again as we get ready to hop to Neon Violet Square for game number 4. This is potentially going to be the decider to see who moves on to face off versus Cero in that grand finals, and who unfortunately just gets knocked out. We are going to be starting up in the top left-hand corner of Neon Violet Square. Top of the blue Terran player sitting up 2-1, still 1 game away from moving on to the finals. It is Team Liquid's uThermal. And his opponent, spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have our red Protoss player. It is PtitDrogo.
DreamHack in 2016 Leipzig winner, a big deal.
That was versus Mana, right? That was the crazy tournament where we had the foreigner, or am I thinking? No, I'm thinking of a different one, I think.
Yeah, I can't tell what you're thinking of. Only you know, up in that noggin.
Oh yeah.
And someone that can read minds, to be fair. We don't know.
Yeah. Rotterdam would know.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Okay. So things that we're going to be looking for are what uThermal does if he goes for the reactor once he throws down that factory. If he's going to throw that on to the factory and get out some Widow Mines. If he's going to get out some of those Hellions. It's
going to be Hellions, man. I've lost my ability to think that he's going to mix it up. I think it's just Hellions all day. They're really good.
Ah, gotcha. By the way, apparently Leipzig 2016 was versus Bly. Actually, I'm remembering that now. I think he also beat, he beat some really good players. I think he beat Deeb there, too, yeah.
uThermal.
Oh, fitting. Okay. Well, this is the back base that we were talking about before with the third base. You get both of those gas geysers, even if there's fewer minerals. It's just such a safe and easy base to take. It's so hard for a Protoss player to really put on that much aggression. That would
you were saying it was a tucked-in base, right?
A very tucked-in base.
Yeah. You watch shows?
I do watch some TV shows.
What are some of the shows you watch?
I watch, let's see. I watch Arrow and The Flash.
Okay.
Let's
I like
see.
RuPaul's Drag Race. You ever watch that?
What?
You ever watch RuPaul's Drag Race?
No, I've never even heard of that.
You're saying tucked in. It kind of made me think of that, but it's a good show. You should check it out.
Okay. I'll check that out. Thanks for the recommendation, Jeff.
I like good shows. Watch good stuff.
You're really pop culture sensitive. I feel like intimidated whenever you make the pop culture references.
Because you don't know if I'm joking or not?
I feel like you can... It's also in your personality that you would just tell me something completely false just to test me.
No, it's a real show. It's a good show.
Okay. No, I believe you. I'm always on edge.
I get it. I think that's fair. Over the years, I've learned to sense that fear and to just go after it like as hard as I can. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But we do get that proxy starport here from Liquid Thermi, so he's going to return to this. And remember when I was talking about how I've given up hope that it was going to be anything other than Hellions? Well, it is Widow Mines finally.
Okay. Proxy Widow Mine drop. Now,
Just one at a time, though. Is the reactor up there? Can we get a shot?
Yeah.
This is a Dead Reaper. We don't need to see that. No.
Okay, he's getting a tech lab on it now after getting out just one Widow Mine.
Is it a Liberator then?
I think it's a Liberator.
It is a Liberator!
Okay, so
cool.
yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty nice, especially if your opponent has been opening up with a lot of Adepts and stuff. But Drogo does have the 2 Stalkers out, and I think he's only been opening up with 1 Adept eventually. In this game, he just doesn't get an Adept at all. So this is not gonna be the worst opening here for Drogo.
I would have loved Liberator range rush. I would have liked that a lot. Because on this map, like you talked about, there's all those bases you can take. You can play really defensive, put a bunch of Widow Mines over there, or something like that, maybe a tank. And then just get out 1 or 2 or even 3.
Oh, are you
Did he not see it?
No, he didn't. He's missing it. That's
a whole
brutal.
proxy just for the 1 Liberator? Terrans! Or no, excuse me, I'm sorry, I addressed the Terrans.
Okay.
Harstem, Mr. Speaker for the Terrans. Tell me why. Do you know, Robbie? Because I don't.
Okay, here's my theory. Well, no, he's getting a tech lab on the barracks. My theory there was he was going to go into mech, so he didn't need the immediate starport anyways, because he was just going to focus on cycle. But he's going into bio, which is what we were both talking about before. Which
now
is awesome.
the Liberator's just sitting there, by the way, which it wouldn't do anything if he went in, to be fair. But proxying for one Liberator.
Oh yeah, did he poke in? He must have poked in and seen the Stalkers or something.
Scanned or something.
Yeah, he must have some, or yeah, I guess also the Reaper moved in and saw all of the Stalkers that were coming out and the Twilight Council, so I guess he might just expect like, you're gonna be pretty prepared.
All right, yeah, he just did the hard math, which is it's one of those things in StarCraft that's so difficult, right? There's times where you're like, okay, they did that build, my base is forfeit, I'm gonna lose that Nexus, or in this case, I proxy to Starport, I'm doing nothing, but that's all right. I'll just have to take it.
Mm-hmm. Widow Mine. Oh, the Observer's there. That's a nice pickoff. Wow, who? He must have been sending his Observer across the map and just encountered that Widow Mine, right? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Double Forge here as well. It is going to be just gateway units, Mr. Fear Dragon.
All right, but does Drogo actually have a good idea of what uThermal is up to? He knew or had some star sense that there was going to be a Liberator. He still has those Stalkers up in the main base, maybe even just preparing for something like a drop, but he hasn't really seen that much of uThermal and doesn't necessarily know it's bio just yet.
No. The kind of nice situation that he has going for him, though, is he's not really leveraging anything. I mean, he sees now, so the Observer makes his way in there, but nothing that he has been doing was leveraging if he was facing mech, right? Like, he's adding 5 gateways, going Temple Archives there, charge, he already has Blink, Double Forge, that's all fine. Is that okay against mech? Yeah, it's okay. It's not necessarily what you would do, but it's kind of almost like last game inspired him that he's like, maybe that is the direction I take it. But against bio, he's got all the tools. He's just fine.
Oh. Liberator makes its way back into the tucked away base somehow.
Yep. Definitely check out that show.
I'll have to ask you for the name of that because I've already forgotten
Okay.
it.
Talk after.
Okay. We got, is that a second factory? Yeah, second factory also being added on
Which
here.
is a bit curious. I like it. It's not like it's a commitment, right? You can just add Widow Mines or tanks are okay. It's not necessarily what you would do, but it's a really nice thing that Terran's starting to be a little bit more free about doing.
I mean, he has the starport, but I'm not sure if he's used it outside of that Liberator. That's the other interesting thing, is that he did fly it all the way back home, but I don't think it's actually seen a lot of use just yet.
Well, he's only just now getting Combat Shield too, so this is not the fastest upgrades you've ever seen in your life. He's not very concerned with doing much aggression, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no double medevac, there's no anything at all.
Very, very passive Terran play. And okay, we got one
Oh, wow.
Immortal. Whoa, that was a non-intentional Immortal rally.
Scouting Immortal, man.
And oddly enough, it soaks up a lot of the siege tank hits there, so the Stalkers are able to get on top of it and pick that off, and now start picking off a bunch of these Marines for free, which are just outside of the range of the Stalkers.
Yep. Ends up being a really nice move there from PtitDrogo. He's going to kind of double down on it, though. Takes a couple of tank shots, but still just a very solid little moment in time there. You don't like the misrallied Immortal, obviously, but as you said, it kind of turned that frown a little bit upside down, right? It spots for the tank, allows them to pick it off, and then they're just harassing up there.
1-4 Stalker get left behind, gets picked off by the Marines, but spots out, okay. Medevac is now out. The Marines are moving down along the south side of the map, which really does imply some kind of a drop attempt. And he's going to actually move out into the middle of the map now and try and find that Medevac? No. Looked like for a moment he was going to...
Does he have a Warp Prism? Like at all?
He does. It is on the north side of the map. With
not reinforcing that army. So that army's looking to catch the scouting Marines or something. But you can't, you don't just attack with that across this gigantic map. This is the biggest map in the pool. I love the 4th base he's taking away, by the way. He's still not taking that tucked in base in the right-hand side.
Yeah, still has that to kind of work with. Both these players have those tucked in bases to work with. Okay, Medevac's loaded up for immediately unloading, but he's going to lose both of these Medevacs. His siege tanks are getting some good damage onto the Stalkers, but he's also just going to lose so much here.
Yep. The Medevacs alone were a nice pick-off. He's just trading out Zealots for this. Needs to be careful not to stay too long, because there's a drop inside the main right now, and that too is getting picked up by Mr. uThermal.
Yeah, able to push that back relatively easily. Doesn't really end up losing too much over there. And even getting up another missile turret or two. Needs to put another SCV on gas key. Slightly misrallied that in the heat of the moment.
Yeah. He's Terran, though. Going Bile.
Yeah.
The gas,
not the end of the world. Although those 2-2 upgrades would be really nice. He started up to +2 weapons, but kind of lagging behind on the +2 armor.
Yeah. Let's see if he returns to the idea. He has the resources where he just didn't do it.
Yeah, I
But
think
you know
just
what? This game might get decided before that. This is a big, scary push. And it was tanks, by the way. I said you could do tanks, but it is tanks.
Lot of siege tanks, but this also requires you to be sieged up in a nice spot, which takes time. And every single time that Drogo kind of pokes forward, he's also delaying this.
This is a scary army, Fear Dragon.
He has Storm though.
Oh, does he?
He does have Storm. He doesn't have. Does he have High Templars though? Oh, he has them in the Warp Prism. Okay.
But it's that back Marine force you got to storm.
Yeah, he storms the Liberators.
Oh, it gets picked off.
Oh God.
And just like that, a lot of PtitDrogo's hopes just got dashed. He put up a good fight here, but now he's lacking Stalkers. There's no real answer for the Liberators. There's still 7, 8 tanks here. There's 8 tanks, man.
This siege tank count is unreal. With the double factory tech lab production of siege tanks, he's getting so many out, and now he can just kind of slowly push forward. He can start unsieging some of those siege tanks in the back, moving them further forward, but no,
not like this. Not like this. He's going to fight right in there into the Liberators. What do you shoot the Liberators or the tanks? It doesn't matter. They both smash face. He's going to pull it back.
Hold on, the Marine count is really starting to disappear here, and with the Immortals still left alive, now he ends up losing a little bit too much. He overextends.
I love that moment of hope that I could hear in your voice, and I was like, he still believes. And then Captain Hook just took his hook, and unlike in the Nice movie, he gouges your throat with it and just destroys you.
Fed to the alligators, man. It's pretty rough. The Marines
have shields. More Liberators showing up 2 at a time.
The siege tanks are so far away. I still have some glimmer of hope. I do still have some glimmer of hope. It's kind of a fleeting glimmer of hope right now, but it's there.
Like I said earlier, PtitDrogo can just leave this game. There's no chance for a comeback, right? He's just dead.
Oh boy. Okay, uThermal. He doesn't have any more than 1 medipick. I'm really looking and seeing. I think that there are ways he can make this work.
All right. Well, remember he has the gold base behind this as well.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. It's 4 base versus 4 base, so that gold base is going to be adding in a lot. Drogo doesn't really even have that great saturation over by his own 4th base, but all right.
It's going to come down to one big fight, and there's exactly an arc. There's 2 Archons and a Sentry that can shoot up, and there's 2 Liberators about to be more.
Okay,
there's the Stalkers. But they blink there.
Yeah, now he's going to have to wait around a lot longer, and if he wants to engage with those Archons, okay, he's going to lose that Archon.
Look how cagey Liquid Thermy's being about his tanks, by the way. He's not even calling them up. He's saying, no, no, no. You can fight the bio, but then you've got 9+ tanks back there that are just going to lay some pain on you.
This is such a slow and methodical push. He just moves up 2 siege tanks. There it is. Drogo's going to finally commit. No. This is his last hurrah, but the Immortals are getting a lot done to the Marines, but unfortunately it's the siege tanks on the left-hand side that survive. The Marine count is starting to disappear, though. Jeff?
Yeah?
Is he holding this?
In the famous words of our friend, Todd, also from France. Lookity supply. 70 army to 31. uThermal is unfamiliar with an endgame scenario, though, so he is going to back off and really cement this victory, which is a classic Terran thing to do. Devastate the Protoss. So there's just now Templar, by the way, because this is the first that PtitDrogo's felt comfortable even adding those units. And he gets somewhat of a saturation on that 4th base, but a 5th base goes down for Liquid Thermal. He still hasn't taken the tucked-in base or the more natural 9 o'clock expansion.
Yeah.
Is it possible, Fear Dragon? This is the most possible moment in time.
Okay, plus
those
3
storms
armor.
just kill everything.
Yeah, he really is relying on some pretty big money storms.
He's making 3 tanks at a time, by the way. You thought 2 was a lot?
Okay.
3 is 33% more.
Oh, Liberator forces the probes off the mineral line and then just runs in with Stim Bio and snipes off 10 of them. That was really well executed.
He's styling at this point in time, is what Nathaniel would say.
Yeah. Oh, this is getting to the point where, yeah, he is doubling his opponent in supply. It is up to massive storms. What can't really happen if you make Archons, but I can kind of understand. You want some frontline buffer.
That first wave was the victory establishing push. This is the victory securing push.
Stalker's trying to get some free pickoffs. I mean, he's got to do everything he can, but these stimmed Marines just do not let you escape out of there kind of unchecked. And there's Marines on the right-hand side that Drogo can't do anything about. He's trying to engage in.
Good storm. He's losing his base behind this, but those are good. That's about as good as it gets. He's taking a pretty, you know, it's just a numbers game. Sorry, you don't have enough. There's too much Terran here. There's even Marines done killing the base. They'll kill up those Immortals, and that's it. Liquid Thermy is going to the finals. We're going to have Cyril, the Finishman, squaring off against the Dutchman, Mr. Thermal.
And what a way to finish him off. Oh!
You did it again!
Yeah.
It's a good one, though.
But yeah, that's...
worth revisiting.
I'll consider it. But yes, uThermal versus Cyril. That's a pretty awesome finals. I know a lot of people that are big uThermal fans are kind of like, yeah, you know, sometimes uThermal just seems super just not feeling it. And some days you're just like, wow, this is the reason why I'm a big fan of him. And I feel like this is one of those days uThermal fans can be proud.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the finals are still yet to be played. But to get there, to your point, yes, correct, very well done. And also a tip of the hat, tip of the bonnet, if you will. What is it called?
A fedora?
What? No, that's not what French people wear.
Oh.
You know, the little... certainly not a bonnet. I'm not going to commercial till we know. No, that's not. I don't have that power. I wish I did. But anyways, the tip of the hat to PtitDrogo. He put up a good fight there. It is still a 3-1 score line, but I thought that he implemented some ideas on the fly to kind of react to what uThermal was doing. And like I was saying earlier, he's a tough opponent. He's the guy that's mixing things up. Those Hellions got a free win a couple of times, and then just facing mech is not the most normal thing to do. And then he busts out this bio-tank play, building 2 or even 3 at a time. Pretty beret. Thank you.
Damn it, I knew that too, and I was just waiting for you to finish talking.
Bonnet is like the American version of a beret, though, so I was pretty close. So thank you very much. What? Go ahead.
Oh, please. Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of stole the words from my mouth. It was really, really well executed. But, of course, ladies and gentlemen, that does leave us with one final match that's going to be coming on up. Take a look. We've had